Apple CarPlay, Lane Assist to help maintain your car's position while driving, Skoda Connect to track the location of your car wherever it goes, an emergency call button in case of an accident, LED lights and rear dynamic indicators. Phew, I made it. The Skoda Scala, our smartest car yet.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
All right, you're very welcome back to Off the Ball. This Sunday, we are turning our attentions to rugby because 24 minutes played at the Stade de France, and France 17-0 up now against England. That Charles Olivon try was given Nigel Owen spending a lot of time looking at the TMO review. Initially, it looked like it was possibly a knock-on from a French hand after a box kick, and in the end, it was deemed by Nigel Owens that Courtney Laws had got the last touch, and in the end, try given. But here we are, France 17, England 0. 24 minutes played at the Stade de France. Looking back on Ireland's result yesterday against Scotland, Malcolm O'Kelly is in here joining me this afternoon. Malcolm, how are you?
Great, thank you. Thanks for inviting me in.
You're very welcome. You've been enjoying France and England so far?
Absolutely, yeah. Nobody knew what to expect from France this year, you know.
Or any year.
And they similarly put a show on against Wales this time last year. And we were all talking about their great return, and then they seemed to turn it off then in the second half. So
only France can do.
Yeah, we're waiting expectation to see how this one fares.
Yeah, this game is early days.
They're looking great. They're just such a spectacular team to watch when they're on fire. So yeah,
absolutely. And Mike Sherry is on the line as well, joining us on Skype. Mike, how are you? Your OTB debut this afternoon.
Thanks very much. How are you, lads?
Hi, Mike.
Not too bad now. Mike, quickly on yourself. You've been retired now since the end of last season. How's that all been going? Reggie, are you still involved doing a little bits of coaching with Gary Owen, things like that? How are you adjusting to, I suppose, the normal life?
The real world, yeah. I'm enjoying it so far, I must say. I got my body sorted out over the summer, and just took a bit of time to reassess. And as you say, I'm out with Gary Owen. I'm coaching the senior team with John Staunton and Conan Doyle. So yeah, really enjoying that. We've gone quite well so far. So that's kind of given me my rugby fix. Did
it take a bit of getting used to? For the pre-season period when you would normally be in there doing loads of work?
Yeah, it did. It was actually lovely. You know, we have two young kids, so it was nice to spend a bit of time with them and not be constantly shattered and broken. But to be honest, I'm not missing it playing at the minute. So far anyway, my body's just feeling really good. I've got back to kind of a place now where I'm able to do things, able to enjoy day-to-day activities, whereas before it was becoming quite an issue.
Yeah, and was playing rugby becoming so difficult and so painful physically for you with the injuries you'd been through that you actually just felt you had to call it a day?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of things that went into it, but I did get to that stage where I just said, look, picking my kids up and changing nappies and even swinging a golf club, all these kind of things were just becoming painful, and I don't feel I was doing myself any bit of justice in terms of my rugby ability. I don't think I was getting to the standard where I felt I could get to previously. So in the end, it was quite an easy call. I could have waited around for the summer and possibly picked something up, World Cup cover, and who knows from there. But I was happy to move on, and I think now I've been justified with how I'm feeling currently.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it's going well for you so far, and you've no regrets on it as well. Ireland-Scotland yesterday, lads. Malcolm, you were there at the Aviva Stadium.
I was.
What was it like?
I was.
Even in terms of atmosphere, was there a sense of a new era?
Well, certainly when I was in the stadium, you kind of had that sense from people that there was a certain expectation that we're going to win comfortably. And I think after about 10 minutes, it was a realisation of what the Six Nations is really about. Like, Six Nations rugby is tight, it's tough. There's nothing going soft. Defences are the key. Both defences stood up incredibly well, and the majority of the energy absorbed by the crowd were from turnovers. Big turnovers, big plays, incredibly resilient from Ireland. Ireland showed some composure to score their try. There's still a lot to do for Ireland. We came away with a win, and that's the most important thing, because it's Six Nations rugby. It's all about momentum. So
did we overplay in the last few months? Obviously, there was going to be so much said after the World Cup, but did we kind of overplay the fact that there's a new coach, we need to change the style? did we all just get it into our heads that come the first round of the Six Nations, we were going to see a brand new Ireland?
Yeah, well, I was certainly wouldn't. I think we might have been a little bit hopeful to see a finished product. You know, this has to be an evolution. This has to be something that happens over a period of time. Schmidt has done amazing work with that Irish team to get it to where it was, to change their brand of rugby to where it was. And as I said, perhaps it probably slightly went backwards in the last year. But still, that team showed great composure to hold on and win that match when, you know, I think possibly the Irish team were surprised by what they were encountered, the physicality of what they encountered. And I think, you know, Scotland brought a lot of doggedness, and you know, Ireland showed that they had that composure, which I think bears well for Andy going forward. If he can keep that ability to deal with issues, and I think we'll see a more competitive, a more ambitious Ireland as we go forward. I think the day was slightly affected by the refereeing. Like watching this England-France match, there's no one actually attacking the rucks, where it was a free for all in the Ireland in our match. So it's that dictates a lot, you know. So I think we've gone okay. A good first step.
Mm-hmm. Mike, a good first step. What would your overall thoughts be?
Yeah, I think what Mal said there is key. You know, a win was absolutely crucial. A loss yesterday would have been disastrous to start off the new era. I think, you know, there's only so much you can do in the space of 5 or 6 sessions and a camp together. And last year wasn't where the lads wanted to be, obviously, the public or the team. But there is a lot of good things that they've learnt and developed under Joe Schmidt, and that's not all going to go out the window. So there are elements that they can bring to the game with new coaches, and you could see them trying to do it at times. They tried to run the ball out. Ringo's got stripped at one stage, and Larmer went into touch, so they didn't get much reward for them. But on another occasion, there was a 22 dropout, and they decided to go short, whereas normally you would have seen them kicking that long. They went short, dropped them behind the Scottish prop, and Stockdale was up the wing there on a 50-metre break. So, and the 22-metre attack, you know, normally you would have seen lads just bashing up forwards, but they had a little trick play that they brought out of their locker that's been there before. So there were definitely elements that you could see that they were bringing in, but it's going to take time, and you know, it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, like taking time obviously is a huge thing, because I would kind of remember maybe when someone like Rob Penny came in at Munster, and sometimes you don't get the time. There's people who are very, very impatient, and Rob Penny was noticeably trying to change the style that Munster were playing when he was there, and obviously a lot of people weren't too fond of it. It does take a long time to actually go and do that, though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, it would take the bones of a pre-season, but you don't get at an international level. Longer than a pre-season. It would take half a season probably to bed in. I used to love that 2-4-2 when it first came in. You'd have Dunners and Paulie on the wing, and all the know-it-alls in the crowd absolutely abusing them to get in and do some work. And it was kind of alien to us, completely alien to us, not to.
Yeah, I certainly don't think we'll see. I certainly don't think we'll see a change of style to that level.
Yeah.
I think we'll see an evolution and maybe slight changes, and perhaps with the arrival of some new young players, their ability to perhaps even offload and tackles, to be prepared to do what it takes to get through a defensive line, as opposed to trying to, you know, go around them or what have you. I think that's tricky, very difficult thing to do at international level.
Mm-hmm. I even remember, I think it was during the World Cup, we had Michael Swift in, ex of Connacht, and he was talking to us about when Pat Lam first arrived at Connacht, and he was saying that for probably the guts of the first season, they were training a completely different way to the way they were actually playing on a match day. That he was getting them day in, day out on the training pitch to work on this new style that they were going for, while at the same time on match day they were staying with the old stuff, so that by the time the next season comes around, they're fully up to speed on the new plan. They're fully able to bring it in on game day. And
amazing.
You know, in the end it worked. It was actually just very interesting to hear how much of a long plan he had on it.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, like as Mike says, you just don't get that time at international rugby. You really do.
Particularly with a World Cup draw coming up in December.
And that was Joe's brilliance in that he took guys in there in a week early, demanded a lot of them, gave them a lot of homework, and was very tough on them that they knew their stuff. Not an easy thing to do, Very few senior international coaches have that time, and that's why we see it in World Cups. Suddenly in a World Cup, a team will suddenly have incredible structure. The likes of France and South Africa's, suddenly have more this time. Whereas, in Ireland, we've struggled in World Cups because we've had time together. So. But I think with Andy, I think not a huge amount needs to happen. Ireland are not a bad team. They just need, a little bit of guidance in certain directions, bringing some young players in, picking some of the foreign players, giving them an opportunity.
Mike, would you go along with that theory? Is it just about tweaking small little things and changing small bits and pieces around the way they play rather than throwing things out and starting with a new plan entirely?
Yeah, well, look, they're not going to do that. They have been very successful over an extended period of time. They had a poor 12 months, and some things definitely do need to change and things need to be brought in. But, it's hard, as I said, in the space of 5 sessions, whatever. When you're tired, Mal will know this, you revert to type. And so what your habits are, you'll go back into them. So if you're used to running at bodies as opposed to spaces, you revert to that when you're tired. So it's all about building those habits and those structures that they want in training to bring into the games, and it's just going to take time. Luckily they got a win yesterday, they can build on that. The Six Nations is all about momentum. They luckily have another home game next week. It's going to be very hard against Wales. Wales put in a good showing against Italy, but I don't know how at the races Italy were. But look, it's about building now, and hopefully they get another win next week, and then you're up and running then.
How much, Mike, do you think Caolan Doris's injury kind of had an impact on the game? Because obviously straight away, just 3-4 minutes in, CJ Stander, who would have been preparing to play at number 6 all week, he's told, okay, you're going back in at number 8. Now, in the end, he actually had an absolute blinder of a game. But do those little things, like a big injury so early in a match, do they take a little bit of time to get used to on the pitch that your role might be changing?
Yeah, they do, but the lads would have swapped in and out all week. I'm sure CJ ran a lot at 8 during the week. It was a shame for Caolan. He had a big turnover a couple of plays before that, so I think people were expecting a lot from him, but that's the way rugby goes, unfortunately. He'll be back, and hopefully it's not too serious. But yeah, it probably did change the dynamic of the back row. And who knows, maybe Caolan would have opened the game up a bit. But as you say, I think CJ had a cracking game at 8.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, like Caolan Doris, just 4 minutes in, he'd even made a great turnover in the opening couple of minutes as well. Like it had started so well, and then
it's tricky, and it could be a case of just not being used to that level of intensity and freneticness. And it was a frenetic game. I was sitting in the south stand. I was looking, and you could see defensively. I remember looking at Rob Herring, and he was like, he wasn't sure of where he was going. Again, he was new to that kind of level of play. And you're in your 22 and you're defending, which side should I go? Like, it was just that just the freneticness of it. And then Caolan gets knocked out. I think Paul O'Connell got knocked out in his first cap as well. So
after scoring 2, he still managed to score 2 tries, I think, in those opening 15 or 20 odd minutes.
Yeah, so he had a massive impact going forward. So hopefully Caolan can do something similar.
Yeah, and I'd say the nature of it might be unlikely he's playing next week. What would you be inclined to go with for next week if Caolan Doris wasn't available again? Would you go back to the way it was yesterday, CJ Stander 8, Peter O'Mahony 6, or would you maybe put Max Deegan in at number 8, give out another debut, and put CJ Stander back to where he was intended to be this week?
Like an ideal world, you'd certainly give an opportunity to Max Deegan, but the guys. You have to credit the guys for the victory, for the win, for what they dogged out. So I'd be surprised if you'd see a change in that. But you might see Max Deegan then coming onto the bench. So where you might make an impact.
Mm-hmm. Mike, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I thought Pete was very good when he came on, and Pete adds so much line-out wise that people may not think that the coach puts a lot of emphasis on that. People might not realise that. So you've Max Deegan, certainly he's been playing very well for a couple of seasons now, and then you've Jack O'Donoghue, who I think has been in sensational form for Munster as well. So there's a lot to think about. I do think the two lads and Josh van der Fleer went very well though at the weekend, so I would predict they'll stick with that and maybe Max or Jack onto the bench.
Yeah, there's loads of these decisions being made all over the pitch, because even beforehand you had Hooker was a big call, Rob Herring got the nod, did pretty well yesterday, but there probably wasn't a huge amount between, himself, Ronan Kelleher, and even someone like Niall Scanley wasn't even in the extended squad. And then we've already spoken about the back row, things like the back three. Jordan Larmour full back, was it him or was it Will Addison? If Larmour goes to the wing, who else is going to be there? Larmour though did pretty well, I thought, yesterday full back.
I thought as an attacking option he was great, and defensively very sound. He looked really sharp. He didn't. I suppose a little Larmour, you're a little bit concerned about his ability to deal with anything in the air, but he was top notch. Really liked him. The two guys on the wing looked pretty sharp as well. I thought the back three were good. I think obviously there's going to be issues now with Ringrose. Ringrose being injured. Aki is just such a physical option in the centre. He's a very strong player for us now. If Ringrose is out for a number of weeks, does it give Henshaw the opportunity to play in his old position at second centre, where he played with Bundy before in Connacht? So there's a good option there, an opportunity there for him. So who knows? That's, again, keep going back to it. Six Nations rugby, it's such a tough, enduring, that you really do require to dig into the squad so many times and guys to come out. But it's, any guy that puts on the Irish jersey, it's just such an honour, and they'll be mad keen to get any bit of time, I'm sure. Yeah,
and Mike, even just in terms of selection, it's particularly at Six Nations and Test level, it's hard to be able to put out the same team week in, week out, because it's so attritional. Even looking at yesterday, excuse me, you've Gary Ringrose gone for a scan on his hand. Quaylen Doris obviously failed his HIA. Dave Kilcoyne got a very bad knock and looked like he was completely out at one point as well. And there are all the other bumps and bruises to go along with it. It is just so hard to get the cohesion of a team together.
Yeah, it is, and you will pick up these injuries during Six Nations. I think history has shown that. Luckily, I think we're pretty well stocked at centre. You've McCluskey who's in great form, you've Chris Farrell, you've Henshaw, Aki, so there's quite a lot of options there. And then with Killer and Quaylen, hopefully, look, they'll go through their protocols, and who knows for the weekend, but they'll be looked after well. They won't be rushed back. We discussed the back row options that might come in for Quaylen, and with Killer, I don't know, you saw Porter coming on at loosehead there yesterday at one stage. So who knows what will happen there. John Ryan might come back into the reckoning, and they might think of Porter as a loosehead. So, look, there's a lot of depth there as well, luckily, in all those positions that we've picked up knocks in. Mm-hmm.
The scrum at times struggled a little bit yesterday. Cian Healy, who, in fairness to him, actually had to put in a fine shift. He was taken off, then he was brought back on and came off, and then he was brought back on again. So he was on 3 times in the game. And I think it was one journalist in the Sunday paper said there must have been a splinter in the seat on the bench or something like that, keeping him up so much. Yeah, and that's credit to the composure of the team, for that kind of thing to happen and not give away penalty try or not give away, penalties in the scrum. It was a difficult one, and the value of having a tight head that was originally a loose head is he's just kind of nailed his position. Porter's nailed his position on the bench now for the rest of the season, or because it's such a valuable thing to be able to have that versatility. But I think Ireland were maybe a little bit surprised again by the power. Certainly I was surprised by the power of the Scottish scrum. They really gave Ireland a good tussle there. So they will probably find themselves doing a lot of scrum work this week. Difficult one. The other big selection call of the last week or so, Conor Murray started ahead of John Cooney. Cooney came on, I think it was around the 60-minute mark yesterday, so he did get a bit of time. He looked very, very sharp. Has Murray done enough, do you think, to justify selection again? Or would you like to just see John Cooney given a longer run in a game? It's an interesting one, like Conor Murray's a great scrum-half, he provides a great service.
And is there more that we can get out of a scrum half? Is there more that we can get out of that position? That's the question that we have an opportunity to ask. You know, is there someone that can give us more at scrum half? And you know, Cooney is saying all the right things at Ulster. He's doing all the right things. He's been exceptional for them. But can he make that impact on the international stage? And does he make a better impact than what Murray can do? And then, by right, he deserves a start because coming off the bench, it's just so difficult, especially if you haven't had a huge amount of experience. It's better, you maybe put Conor Murray on the bench. He's a lot of experience. He knows how to deal with situations. Whereas Cooney probably needs an opportunity to get himself into a game. I thought he did very well when he did come on. Like 20 minutes, just kind of settled the ship, didn't try and do anything too crazy or... but still, you do just need that time to figure out defences, figure out weaknesses, see guys tiring or whatever, to take that opportunity to make a break. And, I don't know where Conor Murray is there at the moment, in terms of him attacking around the sides. I think his distribution is good, but I personally I would say that it should be a chance to start Cooney and maybe let Murray come off the bench with 20 minutes to go and see if his experience can help guide the team home.
Mike, you'd obviously know Conor very, very well, I'd imagine. And in the last, since he broke into as a starter for Munster and Ireland, we're talking 8.5, 9 years ago at this stage. For the bulk of that time, the number 9 jersey for both Munster and Ireland has been his whenever he's been available. How do you think he would react on, I suppose, professional and personal level to being told, you know what, we're going to go with John Cooney this week. We still need you to be there on the bench, 20, 25 minutes run. You're going to need to change the game when you come on. How do you think he would react to that?
I think he'd react very well. We slag Conor a lot, and he's going to get this reputation as being really laid back and nothing really phases him. And that is true to an extent, but he's a serious competitor and he's a very, very ambitious guy. He's driven. Like he wouldn't be as successful as he's been in his career if he wasn't. So, he'd take it as an opportunity to prove it, to prove people that have maybe written him off wrong over the last year or so. I don't think his mindset, if that was to be the case, would be an issue at all. And I'd be excited to see what he could do off the bench. As Mal said, I do think he'd come on, add a lot, guide the team home, and show that his experience counts for a lot. It's a very interesting selection, and I'd be interested to see what happens now this coming weekend.
And what side would you be leaning on in terms of selection for next week? I'm going to have to put you on the spot on this one.
Yeah, look, I can't go against Conor, can I? Look, I thought Cooney did very well when he came on. I think Murray needed to play the game of his absolute life yesterday to maybe silence people, and he didn't. I thought he played quite well. It wasn't really a game where anyone stood out to that extent, so he was never going to silence people yesterday unless he scored 4 tries and completely ran the show. So it'll be interesting. I'd back him to start again, but you just don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. That's about as good as you're getting out of me.
On Scotland, Ireland defended very, very well in the crucial stages yesterday, towards the end of the game in particular. But, like you have to say, Scott, their own worst enemy. Even aside from Stuart Hogg, they had chances there, and just each time they got up there, just completely fluffed it.
Yeah, we talked about composure, and that has been the difference between Ireland and a lot of the sides they've beaten over the years. And even if Finn Russell was there, I can remember Finn Russell having opportunities to take drop goals in the past and not taking them. And I can remember all through my career working with 10s like Rowan O'Gara and Johnny, who took their opportunities. And they don't come often in international rugby. And look, the captain of Scotland, like Stuart Hogg, has a walk-in try and he doesn't finish it. And every coach will tell you, never do that one hand down, put the ball. Don't do it. Just dive over and put the ball on the ground and score your try. Like that will have nightmare. And Stuart Hogg will have nightmares over that one.
You were
So
saying
does
beforehand
coach.
you were in a situation where a teammate got caught out a bit like that running in for a try.
Yeah. And I still remember it, and it happened like 15 years ago, you know, or more, 20 years ago. You know, it's just something that you just can't do. But that aside, you know, Scotland had so many opportunities. They were in Ireland's 22, which was probably a bit of a worry for Ireland. How many times Scotland seemed to be able to get into Ireland's 22, be it a penalty or be it just good quality play, or we saw a couple of intercepts as well. And Ireland scrambled incredibly well, and once Scotland got into their 22, Ireland were so defiant and turned a lot of ball over, which you wouldn't expect. And I don't know if that was just quality Irish defence. I know Ireland were so positive in the tackle, but you know, Scotland have to be scratching their heads, going like, how do we turn over 4 balls in the 22? You know, so. You know, they were the moments of the game, and they all seemed to happen at the South End where I was, and they really lifted the crowd, you know, and got the crowd into the game, because, you know, when Ireland had the ball, it was almost a little bit more. It was harder to watch than when Scotland had the ball, because it was so exciting. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think we were a small bit fortunate to get out of that one.
Mike, can I put you in the position of one of the Scottish forwards maybe who'd busted your gut to get up towards that try line and work the space for Stuart Hogg over in that corner, and to see your captain casually going down, dropping the ball like that? What are you thinking out on the pitch?
Yeah, you would be fuming, especially from him. He's probably their one real world-class player. You just don't expect that. He scored so many tries. He's had so many magic moments over the years for them, and newly installed as captain. Very strange to see that, especially from him, as I said. So, as a forward, yeah, you're blowing out some area of your body and you'd be absolutely livid. It cost him the game, essentially. Who knows what would have happened after that. But, yeah, I had a similar incident with Gary Owen a couple of weeks ago, where one of our best players on the pitch got through for a bonus point try and messed up putting it down, and he hasn't lived it down since. So, yeah, it's just it's such a basic skill, but so important as well.
And you can be certain when it happens to a player, it's never going to happen twice. I think is the one thing on it.
You'll see a hog dive now. Yeah, special hog dive for every try.
Finally then as well, I mean, looking ahead to Wales next week, one player we might be seeing, Mike, I wanted to get your thoughts on as well. We didn't get to see him for Wales yesterday. He picked up a little knock in the lead up to it, Louis Rees-Zammit, who you would have actually come across last year when you had your loan spell at Gloucester. I think you would have played in his debut, I think it was in April of last year against Bath.
Yeah.
How special is he?
Yeah, he's absolutely lightning fast. He looks about 10 years old. There's a lot of hype about him. He's actually quite a big fella as well, so he's definitely got scope to put on size and add to that speed he has, just raw speed, which you don't really see that often. I've never seen a fella move like that in training. So yeah, I think he's the real deal. I think it's great that he's been called up to the national squad so young and get experience. And yeah, it was great to see. It's great to see the Gloucester lads. They have a bit more of a representation in the Six Nations this year. Alex Craig got called up to the Scottish team. Harris is there, and a couple of English lads in Ollie Thurley and Willie Hines. So yeah, they're a very good squad there, and it's good to see them get international recognition.
Mm-hmm. Did you see much of Wales yesterday? 42-10 or 42-0 against Italy. They looked comfortable in their new skin under Wayne Pivac. Yeah,
I saw a little bit of it. I was at a third birthday party, so I was kind of in and out of the room. But yeah, I just think Italy were really poor. Very poor. It was disappointing. I was reading it was their 20th anniversary of being in the Six Nations, so I was expecting a lot more from them. They've got good players. I just don't think that's an acceptable performance from them. I know Wales are probably a level above them, and new coach, keen to get up and running, same as Ireland were yesterday, but I just don't think they were at the races, and they made Wales look a lot better than they are.
Mm-hmm. And finally, guys, how many more notches do Ireland need to bring it up for Wales next weekend?
Well, Ireland need to bring physicality. That's the key to winning Six Nations matches. They've been put through a massive test. Wales won't have had to deal with that kind of level of physicality. You know, and it makes a massive difference. Suddenly, if a team is in your face, then it becomes much harder to play. Ireland need to show that same similar type of composure to deal with any issues that happen on the pitch. They need to be able to be accurate and take their tries like they did against Scotland, but they also need to build on where they are going. The ability to play a little bit more through a team rather than just like, you know, wanting to go through phase after phase after phase. They've got to make the next phase the one that they're gonna break through. You know, they have to get. They just need to be. You just need to be so much more clinical and effective with the ball. You know. But they're going to bring a huge physicality to the match, so I think they'll be right in the hunt against Wales. Wales have got some great back rowers. They've got some real great strike players, but their front five is still very gettable, you know. And Ireland will ask a lot of questions of the Welsh side, especially in Dublin.
Mike, last word to you on next week.
Yeah, they do need to go up several notches, but you know, you can't replace playing games. All their systems, all their structures would have been tested massively yesterday. And, you know, they'll be feeling good about themselves, knowing that they got to win, produce some good rugby, but there's definitely more to work on. They'll go into training now Monday, review it, and then start working again. And they can only improve with games. So I'm looking forward to the weekend, and I think they'll be several notches better than they were yesterday.
All right, Mike and Mel, thanks a million for joining us. All our rugby coverage here on Off the Ball brought to you with thanks to Vodafone. Team of us, everyone in. Half-time at Stade de France. France still 17-0 in front against England. And in the Allianz Hurling League, after the break, we'll get a full-time report from Maura Treacy, where Limerick have beaten Galway 119 to 14 points. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Join the conversation. Text us on 53106. Texts cost 30 cents.
Start your story at Woodies with all Dulux 2.5 litre standard interior colours, 2 for €40. All flat pack furniture and bar stools, now half price. And pick up the Karcher K5 pressure washer, only €299.99. Save €100.